Grab
Switch
the
over
link. True. Oh, I could actually use the monitors today. Do I do it?
Yeah, I totally prefer monitors, but
I might do it. I think I'll just mute. I'll do headphones today.
I
Fuck
might
it.
switch halfway through.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking. We'll see.
I absolutely hate having headphones on.
Yeah, I would just have to I'd basically have to mute every time
Every
that
time you're listening to music, yeah.
or even when we're talking because I think that it would pick up us or like you talking. I am fairly sure it
Uh,
would pick that up. All right, let me
I
just. So
got
yeah,
you.
maybe I will use headphones. I don't want to have to fuck around with that.
That touched.
Alrighty, let me get the old chat up here. Come on, chat. Come on, chat. Here we go. Here we go. Damn, looks like a party in here. Yeah, man. Yeah, Dino, it is a party. You know how it is. Miss you too, buddy. All right. All right. Chat's up here. Let me go ahead and post the link for everyone who isn't in here, which is like everybody except the god himself. Stream feedback. There it is.
Yeah, it's like doing this in the middle of the day. There's like shit going on outside my house.
Yeah, there's sunlight. That's what I'm
Like
fucking
people
shocked
walking
by.
around and yeah,
There's sunlight.
dogs barking.
The sunlight is a vibe. Yeah, I'm using the M50Xs. I already had them out. Good morning. I don't know about that. It is basically morning. What time is it for you, Dino? Three o'clock. Oh, it's 3 o'clock for both of you. You guys live next to each other? You guys neighbors? 4 o'clock. Okay. 6 o'clock here, as you can see. Oh, shit. If you go the speed. I see. I see. Well, as we know, Blonde and Bunting had a show. How did that go? I kind of already asked you, but tell the flock. Let them know.
It
I'll
was
bet you it was
good.
fire.
Yeah, it was really fun. The the like event series is in the basement of an Irish bar, so we were drinking Guinness and Bunting had a really good set, and then I went on after him and also played music. So it was yeah, it was fun. It was cool.
You
And
keep playing it down. I
Shucks
feel
was
like you
also great.
flexed. I feel like it was fine.
Yeah, it was good. I don't know. It's it's hard to say from being on the stage how it all goes.
Fair enough.
And like you don't really see much past a certain point from the stage, so everyone 6 feet away could have just been giving me the finger the whole time. I could I couldn't tell. But there was one guy dancing the whole time at the very like bumping into the table. Very, very close. So
God, that
it was
brings
cool.
back little bits of trauma for me. I was at this one college party where I was DJing, and this one woman who was super lit, like beyond lit, comes up and she twists my filter knob the wrong direction, like because it only goes like one way, and she just breaks it. I'm just like, oh,
Oh,
I was like, oh, you fucking bitch.
oh.
And of course, back then, like I didn't have any like insurance for this shit because I had just like stumbled into this. I wasn't aware. of how
Yeah.
traumatizing it is when someone breaks your shit and you don't have it like insured in some way. So shout out to everybody out there who actually does that because you should.
It's
All right. Well, that's
or
enough
being at a
yapping.
gig
Oh,
when the
maybe no.
cops come to if you're playing a gig and the cops come to break it up, and then you have to leave all your shit there until the police are done with the space. That's pretty horrible too. Even
Yeah,
if your stuff doesn't break, you're like, oh God.
yeah. You're like, is it broken though? Like it's like the cat that's like Schrodinger's cat, right? It's like you
Yeah.
don't know if it's broken or not until you see it again. So you
Yeah.
know. uh,
Oh yeah.
but yeah,
All right, we can get into these feedbacks.
yes. Thank you all for coming. Tonight we're starting with Succotash. What a great name. On God, that's actually kind of a vibe. All right, here we go.
75. I walked out to jump on stage. Who the fuck are you? I knew the Grateful Dead from 1966. Who the fuck are you? Nothing. Nothing. You are nothing. You are everything that's cardboard in this world. You are self-consumed, no talent, mediocre piece of shit.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Flat. You can't even carry a fucking note.
Goodbye. 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 Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Wait, it's not done saying goodbye yet. Nah, I'm messing around. Do you want to kick us off, Blonde? I think you should. Flex. It's been a minute since you've been on
Yeah,
here. Welcome back.
sure. So before I get into it, Mag, did you notice that there was something that was just more on the left?
I would say it wasn't that it was. I mean, let's just listen back. We can listen back.
Does it sound like something is a little more
It-
panned to the
It
left
sounds
there?
like some stuff is more right and some stuff is more. I'm sorry, you know what I mean. The other way around, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
Some stuff's more right,
Okay.
some stuff's more left.
I just had to make sure that that was something that I was noticing, so it wasn't.
It does feel
Ba-
panned weirdly. There you
Yeah.
go.
So that's my first thing. But that I'll get back to that. The low end sound for your first question, I think that it could be a little louder just in general, like kind of pushed a little bit. It all sounds really, really clean, but the drums are a little quiet. And I think that the bass just, I mean, it's there, but I do think that it could be a little bit louder. Any changes to the EQ, I would just try to like push the low end a little bit more, but honestly, it's such a slight difference that I want that maybe even just Ableton stock multiband compressor, disable the lows might even just be enough, and then just like boost the whole thing a little bit. I just think that it could be a little bit more pushed. And I don't think anything really sounded too hot or clipping, at least not on my headphones. The only thing that was throwing me off was this panning issue. I don't know if there was something sitting on the left and something sitting on the right, and it just didn't like come together properly. But there was one thing that was just more like in my left ear, and it was it's that like kind of main synth just felt like it was sitting on my left ear. Other than that, I mean, I enjoyed it. I think the arrangement is nice. I just think that you could have kind of pushed it all a little bit more, and that brought the drums up a little bit. Would have just kind of brought the whole thing together for me. But Mag probably has better knowledge of like the levels and stuff that you got to fuck with than I do.
Yeah, it's a fair
I'll
point.
pass it.
I have definitely been obsessed with that. But no, so I guess I'll answer the questions first, and then I'll see if I can help you address the elephant in the room, which I agree with Blonde. There's some weird, like, it's not, I don't think it's something that's panned more left than right. It's like the stereoizing, or however he's doing the stereo effect on the actual main bass, is like, it's panning like some of the low mids and other things to the left, and then some of like the high frequencies to the right. So it's like doing it like that, which just feels not balanced, unbalanced. But anyway, so yeah, first question, how's the low end sound? As far as sturdiness goes on your sub is flexing, which is good. Your sub sounds quite nice as far as, you know, there's no wobbliness to it. It's nice and strong. We like strong sine wave subs around here. I think the kick though, I feel like the sidechain is like a little itsy bitsy, teeny little weeny bit too aggressive. I don't know if I like the amount of pumping that's going on, considering how dry the song is. So I think if you push the song more, it might be fine. But as it is now, it sounds like the sidechain is like too... Oh, it's the sine whistle that's not centered. Thank you, Dino. I couldn't tell what it was, but something was not centered. But anyway, so yeah, I think that the sidechain just feels weird right now. It's not that it can't sound good when the track is louder, but for right now, the kick feels like it's creating this pumping effect where there's like not a big amount of space, but too much space after the kick and before the bass comes back in. So like, I'll just do a quick little drawing here. If this is like your sidechain shape, and then this is like the audio coming in, right? Like you want this kind of a shape, right? So the way it sounds right now is, I'll make this a little bit smaller. It's kind of big. The way you have it right now is like, this is your sidechain for your kick, right? And then this is your bass, right? So you have this like kind of valley here where it just feels, I don't know, it feels like there's like too much space in between those two things happening. So I would just recommend trying to make the sidechain a little bit more like that, you know, get like a crossfade action going, and that'll help remove that feeling. Okay, onward to the next thing. Let me grab the questions here. Any changes to the EQ? I think the balance seemed okay. You're kind of lacking some mids. I do like the fact that you don't have a lot of low mids, which is great. But your mid-range is feeling a little empty. You have some of it being filled by the vocals there, which might have actually a little bit too much low mids in them. But yeah, I feel like you could definitely bring up some of the mid-bass section. So like anywhere between like, I don't know, like 300 hertz and maybe 1,000 hertz, somewhere in there. Obviously listen and try and hear for what sounds good. But somewhere in that range, if you took like a nice big kind of gentle boost, I think that you would benefit from that as far as filling out your song more. And is there anything that sounds too hot clipping? No, but I think you should try to clip and then boost, not just boost into a limiter. As it is right now, I can hear like it's not very compressed, which means that if you were to try and like boost the volume of this or limit this, or I guess the technical term is like maximize it, I think that you would run into some problems, especially with the way the drums are not very compressed. And the big problem would be like your limiter would just be going all over the place. So yeah, my recommendation is to either use clip to zero or compress everything and then limit everything and then limit your buses and then limit your master, or do that with clippers or a little bit of both of those things. Start kind of getting into the ideology of compression, or at the very least dynamically controlling your stuff more. And then you'll be able to like boost it at the end and it will sound very nice and uniform. And, yeah, I can tell like a good example, and the reason why it's so obvious, at least for, this is what I was listening to, the vocals. Like the vocals are so loud compared to everything else, or at least they feel more compressed than everything else. And I think that that's not always bad, but I think in the context of this song, you really want that bass to be like on the same level of impactfulness as your vocals. So yeah, that is my recommendation to you. Look up Clip to Zero by Baphometrics, or, you know, look up how to use compressors and limiters and start working with those. Even multiband compression like OTT. Yeah, definitely look up videos. There's all kinds of really cool content online. Another great video is the 10-hour mastering.com compressor course. That shit is fucking awesome. It's like literally a professional studio class for free on YouTube. Anyway, so yeah, those are my recommendations for your questions. Now, as for the glaring issue, as Dino had mentioned, it is the whistly flute thing. I don't know what that is, the sine flute whistle. Yes, Baphometrics, Clip to Zero. And you spelled it properly, which is great. Because that's a pretty confusing title or name, at least in my opinion. Anyway, so what I would do, let me just open up Ableton here and let me see if I could show you. What I would do if I was you is take a utility on your little flute whistle thing. Let me make sure you can see that. Okay. And just bring the width all the way down to 0. And then if you want to add width, you can get this free imager plugin from Isotope called Ozone Imager 2. And you can just stereoize it like that, right? And then if you really, really, really wanted to be extra careful, which, I mean, I'm that kind of guy, so I'll just show you what I would do. On top of that, you could grab another EQ after this imager and then set it to mid-side mode, and then make sure you have the side mode selected here. Hang on, let me close these down so you can see what's going on here. In fact, let me just move it all the way to the beginning. Just this would be after those two, but I want you to be able to see. And then I would just high pass the sides like this. You know, that way you can get rid of, you know, as much of the mids that are stereo as you want. So that would be my recommendation to fixing that issue. And you can do this kind of stuff on any of your instruments, right? It doesn't have to be just the flute, but you can do that on anything. Yeah, Wider is a dangerous plugin, my friend. Wider, and I've used Wider. The problem with it is it's using a non-mono compatible algorithm, which is not always good. Obviously, sometimes it's fine, but I have found it to be not that great because it makes the wider in the way that it widens is unbalanced, meaning like it does what happened here, where your sound feels like it's more one way than the other in different frequencies. Whereas the imager from Ozone, or Isotope rather, which is free, similar to Wider, it's widening it, but it's doing it in a balanced way. So when you sum to mono, there will be no issues. When you're listening back to it on your headphones, it won't feel like it's, you know, more left than right, vice versa. So it's just a much better all-around free option for that kind of stuff. So that's why I always recommend it to people. Now, if you're willing to spend some money, the two that I have been using recently that I really, really love are M Stereo Spread, which is definitely my first recommendation. And then obviously the imager from Isotope, but the pro version, or whatever you want to call it, the full version, Imager 11 is also really good. It's basically like the Imager 2, but instead of it just being one big single band, it lets you do multi-band imaging, which I find to be really useful for, mixing and, adding width in more controlled ways. But anyway, don't give Native Instruments your money, though. They bad right now. Vote with your wallet. Boycott. All right, Dino. You literally have like how much money worth of Native Instruments software and hardware? Come on. Don't hold back now. You got to be honest, all right? This is a safe space. But you can't lie to the man. Fair enough. But I've seen Ozone. You don't need like the full version. You just need like the $49 version. What is it? The Essentials. I've seen that go even cheaper than $49 periodically, but I don't know, $50 for not only that, but a bunch of other cool stuff isn't horrible. But Dino is right. That company is cursed. So, that's why Melda should get your money, honestly. If you're going to buy anything, just get M Stereo Spread. Oh, you've got Ozone 9 Imager. Well, there you go. That's what I would recommend you use then. Because at least then you'll be able to do the multi-band thing, which means you won't have to do all of this extra stuff that I was talking about, You'll still have to do the utility mono, of course. You'll still have to bring down the width, or you could even click mono. But then you won't have to do this little EQ thing that I showed you. You could just not worry about that and just create a little band here and only widen the upper band by dragging this up and turning on stereo eyes. But anyway, there you go, everybody. That's how you add stereo information to your cool melodics and or basses without totally making stuff sound and feel weird. All right. Do you have anything else you wanted to say, Blonde? I kind of got deep in it there.
No. It was interesting. I should probably pick your mind about some of that stuff because, I have the free version of Ozone, but I never knew you could do the multi-band stereo imaging. So
yes, multi-band stereo imaging is the sauce. It's fun. It's cool. It's modern. It's what all the
It's especially useful because I don't widen anything really below 400 hertz. So that's it's helpful to know that you can wrangle in some of that.
Yeah. I honestly don't use anything else for mixing purposes. For mixing purposes, I would say that the Ozone Imager is the best option. But for sound design purposes and creativity purposes, I would say the Spectral M Stereo Spread is slightly better because it has this focus option, which is unique, to put it lightly. It's a very unique feeling, which I like a lot. It's good on basses especially. But anyway, yeah. On to the next one. We got Nick's Lost. Let's get it.
Get started. Get started. Get started. We can get started. Maybe I could get lost. Can't get enough of you. Baby, give me good love. Maybe I could get lost. Can't get enough of you. Baby, give me good love. Can't get enough of you. Baby, I could get lost. Baby, give me good love. Can't get enough. Maybe I could get lost. Maybe I could get lost.
Oh boy. Well, I guess I'll start again. I guess I'll start this time.
Oh yeah.
So, is the sub too loud? I mean, I'll tell you something, and this is going to be a little blunt, but I hope that you don't take it personally. I have it turned down, so I have to have it turned down on my end to be able to play it properly through the stream. And if we look here on my Brave browser, I have it turned down a whole 25%. Okay. And it was still cooking. Like, I mean, like, cooking. So, absolutely, the sub is too loud. I think one way you can test this, and this is just something that I find helps me to kind of like center myself, other than referencing, which I harp on way too much, is if you aren't sure if your sub is distorting kind of in a bad way, you should turn down your interface or turn down your headphones so that you can listen to the music really quiet. And if you're hearing distortion from the sound, especially like clipping, which is definitely happening here, and not like a good kind of clipping, we're talking like over zero type clipping, then you know it's too loud. And that is what I felt that whole time, which is unfortunate because I agree with Large Father here. This track is crazy good. Like, the arrangement's great. The sound design's great. Everything about it's awesome. It's just that the mix is a little bit spicy in areas where it might not benefit from the spice. And I've had this issue for a while because I used to make my subs quite loud as well. My recommendation, other than the turning down your headphones, is to kind of just set a level that you want your sub to be, to start, of course. And the more you get used to like it being at that level, you can experiment more, but just set like a specific amount of decibel amount, right? And be like, okay, my sub is not going to go above like -6, right? And whenever you do that and you focus on doing that also on your kick, of course, not just your sub, but any of your low end information, I have found that it helped me figure out like what a balanced mix is. Sorry. And that's like something I would say is hard to initially get, but if you kind of like set hard boundaries for your main instruments, like a kick and sub, it will kind of like, the mix kind of builds itself around that. It's a lot less difficult to kind of figure out what everything else needs to be because you already have two elements of your song that are incredibly important to the overall mix that are essentially like locked in, Yes, that too. Owlet flexing. Yes. If you solo it, I'm sure in this case it would also still be clipping. So yeah, no, absolutely. That's great idea. Yeah. So all I'm trying to say is try and listen for that clipping. And avoid it, because that kind of clipping sounds bad. It's unintentional clipping is what it sounds like. But anyway, that's my answer to your first question. The second question, oh, let me actually kind of just finish this, because I kind of brushed over this. Your low mids are a little bit too spicy on your mid basses. So like, I mean, the high end is a little too spicy on your mid basses either, but you know me, I'm going to go way harder on low mids than high end frequency issues. Yeah, there's like way too much happening at like 200, 150, that kind of area on your mid basses. I would high pass those a little bit more, or at the very least, maybe grab like one of these bad boys. Just grab an EQ, just do a little bit of this, you know, just a little bit of that, just to kind of get rid of that area of mud on your mid basses, because it's pretty apparent, especially when the sub isn't there. But anyway, the next question, I feel the transitions are missing an element. So, I mean, I feel like there really wasn't a transition to begin. Like, you're right. It doesn't, I wasn't really able to feel the transition here. And I think it's because you have so much low end. I would actually say you should cut out elements, which you did a really good job at the beginning here. I would say this transition was quite nice, but I feel like during this breakdown, you should do a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for here? Tension building, by removing frequencies and kind of just building up to a point, maybe turning the volume down as well. That kind of stuff, I think can help. And then you don't, like, as long as you do the tension building in that way, that's like, you really don't need a lot. Like, honestly, I've been a huge fan of minimal music for like ever. I mean, Cursa is a great example of someone who barely puts anything in his buildups or transitions. But what he does do is he does a lot of manipulation of the frequency spectrum, the stereo width, the volume. And what that does is it creates this feeling of tension, but like it doesn't actually require a whole lot of instruments or changes to the arrangement. Obviously, there's still some, you know, you could always put in a white noise riser or, you know, some reverse elements or things like that, but it's not necessary. But yeah, so that would be my recommendation for your transitions. The basses are more in the background and wide as an artistic preference, but does it create discontinuity in the song? I don't think that was an issue for me. Let me go ahead and just do a quick. So I didn't notice it because the song was so kind of clipped, but now listening back to it, they do feel wider than everything else, but that's not necessarily bad. It just means that you have to create, I would say you could reduce the width a little bit on the basses. Same way that we were just talking about in the last song, just the opposite. So if you have imager or spread or stereo spread or anything like that, just kind of like do the opposite. So like these plugins, not only do they let you spread the stereo, but they also let you reduce the stereo. So yeah, I would do a little bit of that, you know, a little bit of that reduction on the stereo. I think that the regular one lets you do that too. Yeah. So even the free one lets you do that. And I would do a little bit of stereo reduction. Of course, you could also just use a utility if you're feeling spicy. But yeah, I would do a little bit of that. And then I would actually add more width to all of these kind of things that I would imagine should be spatial, you know, like the vocals, especially. Like you have reverb, but the vocal itself is too mono. You know, use a vocal doubler, that can help. You could also use an imager on the vocals, that kind of stuff. I think would really benefit the track, because then you'd be helping the width feel more natural. The idea is to have a similar width across pretty much all your elements in the song. Otherwise, they end up feeling unbalanced in the stereo image. Of course, that changes when you start getting further down the frequency spectrum into the low end, but you know, in the mids and even low mids sometimes, all the way up to the high frequencies, you kind of want a relatively balanced stereo field. I find that helps create a more cohesive feeling song. But anyway, that's it. Blonde, take it away.
Word. Wait, can you pull the questions up again? There we go.
Yes, I'm sorry.
First one. Mag kind of covered it. I honestly couldn't notice too much of it, but the amount of steps between me and the source of the music, just by nature of the stream, can make sub stuff like that harder to tell anyway. Because of Discord's like compression and SoundCloud's compression. But the one thing that I did note at the first drop was EQing the noise a little bit, like Mag said, kind of pulling down those mid frequencies. Maybe even just isolating a couple of the troublesome ones and getting rid of those might pull the whole thing together a little bit. You did a better job of it on the second drop than you did on the first drop. But I do think that there was a little bit of mud with those main basses. Transitions are missing an element. I would have liked to hear some kind of like sweepy things, some sweepy fills, or maybe kind of isolating certain elements and making a fill out of that. It felt like this song was very much on. Once it dropped, it was on and it stayed on the whole time. I'd like to have a little bit more like grooviness coming from it. Like there was one specific spot in it. I don't remember where it was, but your bass went like, blah, 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 and then it went dook dook, and it had this really cool little like chunky effect. And if you muted everything else when that was going on, that would be a really nice little just like pop, like kind of change the energy up. Just something like a little spice to sprinkle in. Wide basses in the background. I mean, I think you could probably mono them, but artistic preference, that's totally up to you. Then another thing I wrote down, sounded like the violins were like sidechained to something, but not the drums. Like they would be loud and then kind of more muted and then louder and then more muted. I think that they sounded great. Finding a way to keep those a little bit more prominent in the mix would be nice, but I don't know what that side chaining effect, or if it was just modulating volume or something. Definitely felt kind of odd there. And the vibe of the song, like everything went together really well. I really like it. It just, the muddiness was a little odd, and then the violin could have just been a little louder. But some like, I think that some cool sweepy fills or some drum fills to kind of accent your transitions might fix the problem that you're talking about with number 2. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got. You covered a lot of it.
Yes, I guess I've been in a mood to go deep today. So yeah.
Yeah, man.
Well, cool. Yeah, Nick's definitely a great arrangement. I think that you should focus on the mix and master on this, because I would not change much when it comes to the arrangement. But yeah. All right. Next up is my song. All right. This is something different, but I look forward to hearing your thoughts, Blonde, as well as chat. Don't forget to roast me, chat. And yeah, here we go.
I wanted to be someone, a dream in the back of my mind, like it's alright. And I wanted so bad to be what I thought was part of some perfect reality. I wanted to be someone, a dream in the back of my mind, like it's alright. And I wanted so bad to be what I thought was part of some perfect reality. But maybe it's okay to live in the house of my mind, my soul.
Word. We'll all kick it off.
Flex.
Well, for number 2, I don't. I never really messed with vocals, so I can't really like give advice as to how to move them in the right direction. But the vocals sound correct for the genre. Like that chain that you have could probably be used for other people's voices as well and get it pretty damn close.
Gotcha.
But I don't know anything about processing vocals like that, so
Yeah, I mean,
I can't really point you in the right direction.
yeah, if it sounds good for the genre, because yeah, it's definitely like hyper poppy, definitely is like the vibe I'm going for there, then I guess that's good.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Good. Yeah, the vocals themselves, I gotta like re-sing all those, and like I want to make them much better. Lyrics are kind of just not the way that I want them, but yeah, the processing
Yeah.
was what I really wanted to focus on. So that's good to hear. That is good to hear.
Word up. Well, so I think that for the first question, the subs honestly could be a little louder.
Okay.
Again, that might be the
Oh,
compression
Discord. Yeah.
to me.
Yeah, I have not
But-
listened to this on my monitors yet, which was a mistake. All right, mistake.
And just looking at the mini meter, like, you know, it looked pretty uniform, but I also prefer a little bit more of a thumpiness. But, you know, you can leave that one up to the listener with their EQ on their fucking phones or whatever. Arrangement feeling overcrowded. The only thing that I felt like was a little overcrowded were the like high pitched arpy kind of things. The like,
Yeah.
I think that those could. I don't think you should remove them, but I think wrangling them in a little bit. Because were those moving from side to side?
There's a delay on them, so kind of is a ping pong delay.
Gotcha.
So yes, this is a short answer.
Okay.
Maybe I should make them not do that. Is what you're
I mean, I
thinking, or-
kind of liked it, but maybe like EQing out a little bit before the delay,
right.
so that the little tiny problematic piece gets pulled out. I just think that it sounded good. Like I don't want them out of the song. There's just like a little bit of tweaking I would do to them that maybe would.
They
shove
did
them in,
feel
jam
so like
them in a
that
little
was
bit.
the moment that I was most worried about, because I almost felt that it was a little too full. And I think that yeah, it's not like arrangement wise it's too full, but like frequency wise, I agree with you. I think that there is a little bit
Yeah,
a little bit of
but
fighting
that's
going on there.
that's pretty minimal. And it was just like on the top. Like I was looking for those specifically at the top end, because you said in your first question if the highs were too spicy, but I don't think that they are necessarily too spicy. I just think that they could have been tamed in a little bit more. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's all I really got. I think it was good. I need to learn how to do vocal processing like that so I can actually help people with those questions.
Yeah, I've been thinking about once I get it down, I'll put out a video on that, because I don't see a lot of people doing vocal processing videos on this style, and I definitely think I have a unique angle that I haven't heard anywhere else. So yeah, but no, I feel like I'm glad that the highs are not as spicy as they have been. I've been like super focused on trying to wrangle those in. And shout out again to Owlet for the Air Windows suggestion, because that is like now 100% a part of my my every single project is going to have that on it somewhere. Specifically,
What's Air Windows?
so it's a free plugin, a free set of plugins, I guess. And there's this one Air Windows. I guess it's like it's not really a preset, because all of these are different plugins, but there's this one called Air 4, and it basically lets you clip slew frequencies that are too loud. And slew is like the really, really, really high, painful treble area. But it does it in such a way where it's like dynamic to some extent, right? So you can like, I'll try and send the video that Al sent me. Let me find it real quick. But basically it's a really nice way to like control those in a musical way. Like it's not just like cutting the highs out. It's quite nice. Here, I'll copy the video in here. I found it. And yeah, shout out again to Al for being such a fucking awesome person and sharing this with us. Yes, Al, it did work for me. It worked great. I I pretty much use it. I don't want to say all the time, but I found it to be like a really nice way to address that problem. And it's an aggressive way to address that problem, but it's like not so aggressive that it's like an EQ. So yeah, it's really cool. I like it. And I think everybody should know about it. But this is in tandem with like all the other stuff too. Like I'm definitely doing compression on the highs, and I'm doing like a little bit of soothe, a little bit of bloom, which is just dynamic EQing. It's a whole combination of things, but this is like a nice like additional thing to have, because if you hit this tool just right, it ends up like removing a lot of harshness without being noticeable. So yeah, definitely watch that video.
How does it compare to like Soothe?
So like Soothe is like great, but I find that Soothe is not aggressive enough for the way that I process my stuff. So like I kind of push it as far as I can until it hurts a little bit, and then I pull it back. And that pulling back process is not always just like turning it down or like reducing the volume knob. It's also sometimes just processing it dynamically. So like trying to address like the problematic frequencies from like an EQ or a compression perspective. So yeah, I think that if you do a bunch of different ways of addressing those issues, whether it's like I said, dynamic EQing, compression, obviously this tool, the air tool, soothe, all of those kinds of things in combination, used subtly, can create a very like natural solution to those problems. But I feel like soothe on its own just isn't quite enough. Like it's too all over the place sometimes. Like it's not quite, like I said, I think I originally said it's not aggressive enough, at least for my use case.
Got it. All right. Well, I was interested because I'd never heard of Air Windows before.
I have heard of Air Windows, but I did not know about this specific preset or whatever, inside of Air Windows.
Gotcha.
No, I did not end up using that meter. I end up most of the time, the only meters I use are mini meters, and maybe on occasion I'm pulling out like Insight from Isotope, but not very often. Most of the time I'm just using mini meters. And recently I've been kind of getting into the habit of not looking and doing more listening, because I have noticed that when I listen more, I tend to mix a little bit quieter. And I think that that's kind of what I really want, I'm not trying to aim for some number that society has put into my head. But those are just, thoughts. But anyway, yes, Dino, but as I just said, my thought process or workflow is not keeping anything in check and kind of just breaking everything and then kind of like fixing it. So the way I fix it is like the glue and duct tape of like soothe, EQs and compressors, all that shit. That's basically, my solution. But anyway, yeah, Beethoven totally used soothe 100%. Word. Well, I'll have to try it. Obviously I have it. So yeah, I'll have to try it. But yeah, shout out again to Owlet for being such a dope person.
I'll have to check those out.
Thank you. Yeah. All right. Next up, we got this hooligan. Hang on. Let me grab the old questions here, because I want to make sure that I see them.
This is one of those, I made this for the show on Wednesday. Like I wrote it on like maybe Tuesday night because I needed that transition song between two things. So I wrote it, I played it. Probably never going to touch it again, but I figured I would take part in feedback with you guys this week because it's been a while.
Nice. Well, I guess that means I can be a little aggressive with the feedback, because you're probably not going to address this song with it, but maybe it'll help you with like a future idea.
I'll probably go back to it, but this was one of those songs that maybe only 30 seconds of it was actually playing without anything being layered over top of it at the show.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. So it was
very much a like transitional thing. There's not a lot of like focus being put on this one. But I figured a little caveat.
Absolutely.
Go hard on it. It's essentially a flock flip.
Okay. Well, yeah, here we go. Okay. All right. Are the highs too spicy? So I can feel what the vibes are. I think I know what you're worried about. Maybe I don't know what you're worried about. But there's one thing that I'm worried about, and I'm hoping you are too. And it's just this one section. I think that these snares into the reverb are a little bit harsh, but then everything else is fine. And I think it's just because it's so isolated, like it's on its own, really. Like, and because of that, it's like your brain focuses on it a little bit more. And I think that, like, also by reducing some of those highs, you'll create like an even bigger feeling of tension release as well when you do get to the drop. But other than that, I felt like the highs were quite nice. One thing that I was not concerned with, but that did feel a little awkward, was the space of the symbol in comparison to everything else at the beginning. I don't know, it just feels like it's kind of in this really wide, really big reverb space, but then the rest of the song just doesn't feel like it's really stereo at all, I guess. Like, let me actually just listen. I guess it's mainly the mid bass. The mid bass just feels so dry here in comparison to like everything else. That I would just add like a little bit of reverb to it, you know, just to kind of hint at the fact that it's also in the space with all of the other, you know, reverbed sounds. But other than that, yeah, freaking awesome. I don't think that there's any issues with the spicy high end. Yeah, I think it was just that one moment of time while you're leading up with that snare. What changes to the percussion would you make to add some groove swing? One of my favorite things to do that I've been doing a lot recently is I'll take a Serum or whatever other sampler synth that you have that can create white noise, and I will put an LFO on the level of that white noise, filter it, remove like the low end and mid range and all that, and I'll basically set the LFO to like something that's, you know, sensible, like a quarter time or, you know, a half, you know, bar or whatever, right? Like with the LFO. Or even a half triplet or quarter triplet, right? And then I'll draw in fact, you know, I'll just show you just because it's such a fun technique. Everyone should start trying this out. I'll even pull out the new Serum too, guys. Even though like really you could do this in anything. So yeah, the idea here is like you take an LFO, just make sure everybody can see here. Okay. Yeah. You take an LFO and you put it on the level. You make sure that it's getting filtered. Oops, that's not what I want. Filter, right? And you just cut out all the low end just so that way you don't have to worry about, you know, any of that being a problem. And so you can see how you can obviously get like a You can get a shaker this way, but what I normally do is I'll set it to like something wacky, right? Like, let's just try triplet eighth notes. And what you can do is you can like draw in these kind of wacky shaker shapes. You know, I can obviously slow this down. Maybe I'll do quarter triplet. You know, and you can just like get super creative with it, right? And I find this to be really easy in comparison to like putting the drums in with samples. And this is just for like shakers specifically. But I find this to work out really nicely. And I've been doing this on a lot of songs recently. Shout out to Cursa, because that's where I saw that. But yeah, I find that to be like so fun, and it works great. And of course, you know, you want to like make it more stereo, and you can do all of that in a bunch of ways, but that's like the foundation of the idea. And I find that to be nice. Oh, thank you, Victor. Here, I'll send the link to the chat. But yeah, let me just quickly get this link for the fellow flock member. Oh, okay. That didn't work. Oh, it's because I'm on streamer mode on Discord. I see. There we go. Yeah, pasting a not hidden link would probably be useful. All right. So that's what I would do with percussion groove swing if I was you. Just experiment with that, Blonde, and I think you'll just have tons of fun with it. And then should you add duck sounds, or is that too much? So I was thinking about this while I was listening to it. I don't know if it would be too much or not. I think that it's kind of funny. Like it would become a little bit more memey, but like not in a bad way, you know? So I think that's kind of like a decision. If you want this to be a more serious track, then don't add the duck sounds. But if you're okay with like a couple chuckles and people like laughing a bit, then I would definitely add the duck sounds. And I don't think the laughs would be like laughing at you. It'd be laughing with you, you know? So yeah, that could be dope. So that's kind of like an execution thing. Oh yeah, I was like, yeah, I think he means literal duck sounds. Cause like,
yeah, dude.
Listen to the sample. You know, like that's pretty duckish, you know? So no, I feel
yeah. I was thinking about just making the like response part one of them like a duck bit or something, but
I'm sorry, Victor, you cannot submit today, but next week on Friday at 5:15 p.m. Eastern Standard, the submissions will open up if you want to submit then. But we appreciate you being here. Sorry, it's just we have a limit to when people can submit, just because it would get a little bit out of control. But anyway, yeah, so those are my thoughts, Blonde. Let me see if there's anything else I can add here that aren't in the questions. The one thing that I would tell pretty much everybody, but also just anyone that's like working on trying to get mixing better, is like, and I kind of briefly brushed on this when we were listening to one of the previous tracks, but I would just try to get everything to have a little bit of stereo information in it, right? And I use Imager a lot for that, but I find that when I do that, especially in like certain things like low mids on the kick or low mids on my basses, or even like, and again, I'm not talking a lot because obviously you don't want it to get out of control and feel like overpowering and muddy, but just like little hints of those kinds of things can really help feel like the track is like bigger and just wider for people who are listening on headphones. Obviously this does not matter for live music at all, but I find that like for helping the translatability across all the different, you know, mediums that people listen to music, I have found that helps a lot. You know, like every element in your song should be mixed. Like treat your stereo mix, like the width angle, like all the left and right stuff, as like its own mix, and you should have like a little bit of each of the elements that are in your song in there as well. But obviously in the same level of mix as you would with your mono, right? So like, you know, you don't want it to be overpowering. You just want the balance to be the same. And that's how I've been getting like such really wide, but also like, you know, controlled, very like purposefully, intentionally wide mixes and masters, because like you can't definitely use things like Imager or something like that, like a multi-band stereo processing tool, because it's dangerous if you're using things like wider or even things like chorusing. I tend to not do as much now because I find that it's like too delay based, whereas I'm looking for like algorithmic kind of stuff. Because why not? You know, we got all this cool spectral algorithm stuff that helps kind of create like a better mono result. So yeah. Sideband reference spectrum analyzer. Yes, that's like a great example. You can also, obviously, what I do is I just look at mini meters. But yeah, I'm pretty much always looking like when I solo something, if it's just a straight line up the middle, then I know I could probably do a little bit to it, you know? But yeah, I think Owl's probably got a better recommendation there because that sounds like a great tool. Yes, yeah, we're I guess sometimes we get a little technical in here. Maybe even most of the time. But yeah, I think I covered pretty much everything. This is a cool.
You got it.
This is a cool little transition track, though. I think that I don't know. I would like to hear like a full version of this. You know what I mean? I think it could be fun.
Maybe I'll keep working on it, but yeah, I gotta after a gig like that, it's like I gotta take a couple weeks off from Ableton.
Yes.
Give my brain some time to recoup.
Vibe time, chill time.
Oh yeah.
Gotta give some space for the inspiration to grow. But yeah, I think Owl's on point though. I think that like if it was up to me, I would go the silly route. But yeah.
Word up.
Speak of the devil, and he shall arrive. All right, Owl. This coda. Okay. Who wants to go first? Do you want to go first or should I?
I'll go first.
Yeah, I just did a bunch of talking.
Word. Well, first question, how are the drums sounding? They sound a little lost, I think. At least the snare seems a little bit like kind of lost in the sauce there. But I think that you could probably fix that cleaning up the noisy bass a little bit. Like, really seems like they just could be pushed through the mix a little bit more. But the the phrasing question, the first drop didn't really have much. It was kind of like freeform. You kind of brought more phrasing in towards the end, but I do I found it interesting. You didn't do a lot of like call and responsey stuff in it. Like you submitted something in the past that I was like, oh, this guy's got like a really like phenomenal grasp on like the call and response arrangement. And it seems like you're just breaking away from that here. It's not like a mistake. It seems pretty intentional. But maybe tightening up some of the like percussive things that are happening on the top level to kind of bring it all together, add a little bit more groove would make it feel a little bit more like phrasey. But I mean, I was grooving to it. I don't think that that's a bad thing. The little bump in energy at the end, I really liked that part. I would like to hear that kind of stuff maybe incorporated into the rest of the song. Um, but I don't think it was too much. The song kind of like picked up energy as it went on, so I don't think it was out of place. Contour of the sound texture. Mag probably knows what you're talking about, but I don't I don't know what that means.
I think you kind of touched on it. I mean, 'cause
Yeah,
I think he's real. I think it's kind of like the call and response thing you're talking about. Like,
gotcha.
there's not very much of it, which means I would say that it is a little monotonous, like a little bit. But I don't know if it's bad or
Okay.
not.
Yeah, like this doesn't seem like what you normally submit for these streams. So it seems like a departure, which is fine. It's still good. It's extremely wide. That's one thing I will say. Like, there's a lot of stereo information going on, which maybe is why the snare is a little bit lost, like just buried underneath everything. And if you were to sidechain everything too much, it's like so wide that maybe that would even just sound kind of odd if you were pushing the snare through that way. So I don't really know the right way to fix it, but on Mag's mini meters, it was like just a circle. Usually there's like a line and little bits going off to the side. That was just like moving around like left and right like constantly. Um, but you know, that could also just be kind of taming down some elements, making those a little bit more centered so that the wide ones can sit a little more and then it won't clash as much. But I don't I don't think that the issues that I have with that are necessarily like deal breakers for the song. I do think that the kick snare might be able to like punch through a little bit more, add a little bit of groove. But yeah, I'll pass it on to Mag.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you completely, Blunt, on that. I feel like the kick and snare are just not slapping, you know? I kind of want them to slap, or at the very least, how do I put it? It's like the groove isn't felt, you know? Because, like, it's not obvious enough. So, I don't know. It's like the bass groove sometimes overtakes the drum groove, which feels weird because I feel like the drum groove should be, like, the most prevalent thing, at least for like, you know, dancing. And I can see on like a sub how you probably wouldn't have that much issue with the kick. Like, I could kind of feel that there's low end information, like sub information there, so it might not be an issue, but on headphones it kind of was. So maybe that's where you could be like a little bit more generous on like the low mids, or however you're side chaining the low mids of your kick. I would like be a little bit more aggressive with that, or maybe even the mids. But yeah, the snare especially is, I think, completely lost. But yeah, those are my thoughts on those. Yeah, Blonde pretty much went over that. Does the phrasing keep the listener engaged, or is it too much of the same? This is a good question, and it's hard to answer, I'll be honest. I feel like it's not bad, but I don't know if I'm like a huge fan, you know? Like it's definitely not bad, meaning I would dance to it. But I would like the part of me that would go from like this is great to like this is above and beyond great would be like slight call responsiness timbrally. So I noticed you're using a lot of that noise bass. That could be like either your call or response bass. And then I think if you just had like another type of sound that's like just as prevalent and loud and forward, but not relying on the noise factor as much, I think that would be like a good way to call response. But those are just my opinions and thoughts on that. It's not bad though. So, I mean, you could just roll with this and I think it would be fine. But like I said, that's just the inner me that wants like that little bit of extra, I guess it's like call and response or like even tension building. Cause I think the call and response creates a lot of tension. But anyway, your third question, I'm not sure about the little bump in energy at the end. Should I cut the little coda? Let me hear this one more time. I don't think you have to cut it. I think that it does get lost in the mix though. So maybe have it be a little bit more forward in the mix. Like maybe cut some room out of your main mid basses for it. That could be nice because I do like it. So that's my thought there. Kind of maybe reference, hell, you could even reference like Cohen sound or something maybe for this track and just see how they kind of get all those melodic things to sit with their basses. Because I think that would be just a good, that's just like what came to my mind as far as like the level of bass forwardness, but then like the coolness of that organic feeling instrument. So yeah, I don't know. That would be my thought process going into that. And is the contour of the sound textures monotonous? Yeah, we kind of brushed up on that when we were talking about the phrasing. I feel like these are very similar. I think that I guess the phrasing is slightly different. Maybe the phrasing is fine, and it's just the texture that's not hitting for me. And maybe that's why I liked it, but I didn't love it, you know? So maybe that's probably where I would go with that. And I don't know if you're up for some extra thoughts, but I just kind of noticed these other things. And I'll just point them out to you. There's this one bass. That bass. I'm not a huge fan of the high frequencies in that. It's kind of like spectrally, but like harshly spectral, if that makes sense. So that's like the only bass where I was like, I don't know if I like the high end of that one, but everything else was fire. So yeah, just that one sound, I would like figure that out. Maybe it's like the reverb that's on it or something. I don't know. I don't know why that
sounds
resonates.
like a bird. Like it sounded like a loon call, like vocoded or something. Like like loons make this weird like cackling sound, and that sounded just like that, but like vocoderized.
Yeah, because I feel like the texture and timbre of it is great. It's just like a little bit resonant, like just a skosh. And then there's one other bass actually, but this isn't my this clicky bass. I don't know if I'm a huge fan of the clickiness personally, but those are just my thoughts. You know, maybe you could roll with it. It's just like so percussively different from everything else that's going on in the mix that I don't know, it feels a little bit digitally, you know, like too digital. But yeah, those are the only two things that I felt were negative as far as bass related things go. Oh, and then there's this transition here. When it happened, it felt abrupt. So maybe like lead us up a little bit more into that, just like a little bit more, like not a lot, just like just a little bit, you know, like something, I don't know, like maybe some more frequency cutting.
That you had going there, that like doodly doot 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 doot, that is fucking great. That is like super clean. So whatever you did for that, save that as a preset and keep using it because that was fucking really, really good. And the little Pippa I liked. I think that Chinese like string instrument kind of thing is a little overused in bass music these days, but I think it works in here. But that little doot thing, I mean, top notch. That was really, really good. That was really good sound design for something that minimal.
Hell yeah. But yeah, I think that's basically all I had to say. Rings into clouds for the strings. What does that mean? Is that the
Yeah, what does that mean? Is that a Gollum riddle?
honestly? And in the darkness bind them. You know. Yeah, no, that was sick. That was super sick, Al. Yeah, as always, I just try and go super nitpicky because you're flexing, dude. That was sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. Well, all right. Next up, we got some imagining to do.
I want to be a part of the people that make meaning. I want to do reimagining. Take my hand. Now, close your eyes. Now, feel. Imagine. Imagine.
Wow. Let's see whose turn is it. Me? I think it's me, right?
Yeah, you can go first.
Okay, well, first of all, this was very, very cool. I think the arrangement here was nice. I feel like I don't know how long you've been producing, but if I'm not mistaken, it's not a super long time, right? How long have you been producing, Daniel? Let us know. I'm curious. Because this is pretty freaking good. Maybe he'll tell us. 6 months. Yeah. Okay. This is amazing for 6 months. So, My first thought is it is a very mono track. I feel like, especially going after, I mean, you're going after fucking Owl here. So, you're basically going up against like a person who's been doing this for over, I don't know how many, how many years have you been producing Owl? I'm curious. And yeah, no, I assume that you have been into music for longer. And yeah, I am older than time. Okay, all right. So basically forever. Since I was probably not even born, this man has been fucking sitting there in front of a DAW. So yeah. I think that you should test out some of the stereoizing stuff that we were talking about earlier throughout this evening or afternoon, evening. I guess it is evening now. I would really just experiment with Imager, experiment with adding choruses or delays, ping pong delays, things like that, things that add stereo information to your track. And the one thing that was stereo, I was not a big fan of, and that was the panning arpeggiator. And I don't know, you might know this by now, but we are pan haters in here. All right. We do not like when main elements go like this and then over to here and then back over to here. It's like giving you whiplash, right? You're like, you don't know which way to look. And all of a sudden you get confused, you start getting a headache. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I think that is what I would focus on, is trying to not rely on pan for stereo stuff as much, at least while you're starting out. And then the more you get into it, it's okay to pan stuff. It's just you really want to avoid it if it's the main thing of your entire song. Not saying you have to not do it entirely. Okay, it's not what I'm saying, but I think it should be avoided until you're doing it very intentionally, because it can be very jarring if not done properly. And the big thing that I always try and keep in mind whenever I am doing panning stuff is you need balance. So that's why I like using things like ping pong delays, because even though it's far off to one side for one moment, within like the next moment, it's all the way on the opposite side in the exact same distance, right? So it's kind of doing this, which feels more balanced than like this, and then like going back over to here, and then like going back over to here, right? So instead of doing that, it's like what over here, and then instantly over there, and then instantly over here, and then instantly over there. So it feels like more natural, right? So it feels like less strange or jarring. Now, obviously you can do panning, that's fine. But until you're very conscious of the intentionality behind it, I would advise against it. Okay, so that's all I'm going to say. Now, when it comes to the second thing that really stuck out to me, hang on, let me pull up my notes here. The synth, I think, is a little quiet compared to everything else. I think like your main kind of like melodic thing going on during the drop section here. Like your bass, your kick, your drums are all quite loud, and then your melodic synth is feeling like overshadowed, I think you could either turn it up, compress it, maybe multi-band compress it, distort it a little bit, maybe add some reverb to it, do all kinds of stuff to create more information in that instrument. Let's see. I think that's pretty much all the main like glaring things. One thing that wasn't really glaring, but I thought would be like a quick improvement to this song would be adding more rhythmic elements, like a shaker or something. I think could be nice. Something that's like a little bit faster tempo to kind of bring up the tempo during parts of the drop. So you can like start it out with just the hi-hat, but then like, maybe after halfway through that first section, you could add the shaker, and that would like kind of continue the increase in progression of the song. But yeah, those are kind of the big things that stood out to me that I think would be like not easy fixes, but something that I would focus on, especially the Imager thing. Just download Ozone Imager 2. It's free, and just like put it on some stuff. Maybe not your sub, but like, or your kick, but like, on the melodic stuff, I think it would sound fine. on, even some of the hi-hats. I think it wouldn't be a big issue. I would be gentle with it on the hi-hats, but you get what I mean. It would help fill out the stereo image of your song. Okay, so my music theory knowledge is limited, and I hope I'm not off key. Do any of the sounds, or do the sounds and tones work together? I think so. I think nothing sounded out of key to me, so I think that you did a great job there, which is awesome. Yes, without the panning, yes. For now, right? Eventually you can pan all you want, but just be really intentional. Maybe even reference some songs with panning in it, and that might help you kind of make decisions that are less strange. And if this is what the genre that you're going for, or the reference track that you're going for, is doing, I'm sure that they're doing something that's like balancing that out, right? So if they have one sound doing this and going like this, they probably have another sound that's doing this, right? So it's like going back and forth like so, right? Even though they could be two totally separate sounds, it's like balancing out the feeling of that movement. Anyway, so how do I fill in the spectrum more subtly to avoid adding too much sounds and character to the track? I like minimalism in areas, but I hate how it looks on the millimeters. So, yeah, imager, reverb, multi-band compression, saturation, limiting, compression, clipping, all of those things. In fact, yeah, clip to zero, bathymetrics, I mentioned it earlier. It's a long watch, but that seems to be, from my experience and others, the best, like, I don't want to say noob friendly, but it really is. It's like an unfamiliar, for a producer who's unfamiliar with mixing and mastering, it's like a really easy way to get good at mixing and mastering, at least pretty good at it. Obviously there's a lot of things you could do to improve mixing and mastering all the time, but I feel like with the clip to zero strategy, you're essentially like instantly getting your tracks full and loud, and then you just have to kind of dial in like how to work that feeling, how to get that feeling to sit just right. So that's why I always recommend it to everyone. But it is a little bit confusing. So it's one of those things where, you can always take your time with learning that. But yeah, that's why I recommend it to people, because it's just the way to go. As far as like modern production goes and loud music, it seems to just work. It kind of like unintentionally makes your song loud and full, which is the goal, I think. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Blonde, take it away.
Word. Could you play me like a section, like maybe a third of the way in, just or right in the middle there where the drop is, like the big, yeah. All right, so yeah, you can pause it. I don't think that you're off key. I played a little bit along on my keyboard just to see like what key you're even in, and it looks like you just kind of stuck to like C, maybe F. Didn't seem like you were taking huge swings with it, so you weren't going to get super far away from sounding correct there. But I think that the sounds all work together. The little duty sound I would really like if you arpeggiated it a little bit, maybe just to make it like just to add a little bit more, because it is minimal, and you can keep it minimal and still have a little bit more like space and like movement in it, just adding a little bit like that. But I don't know, the parts of it that I liked, it's not the parts that I liked because they were minimal. Like my favorite bit of your track was in the very beginning, and at the end you had these cool noise fills, which if you were to incorporate those noise fills as kind of percussion throughout the song, maybe just like peppering them in there, I think it would tie the whole thing together, because I really like the atmosphere you set up, and then the song itself is like a little bit empty, and I think that you could fill it up without taking away from the minimalism, just by incorporating parts from later in the song and earlier, like throughout it. But on the mini meters, it looks far more full than it sounded. I don't know if that's I don't know if that's even right. Uh, it just like it seemed to have a lot more information on there than I was getting into my ears, but maybe if you were to add some multiband compression to the whole thing, those problem areas might stand out a little bit more and you might find yourself in another pickle. But as you add elements to it, as you build up, I think that towards the end of the song, like phasing elements out so it might sit in a mix a little bit better would also be all right. But a huge part of, if you've not been producing for that long, a huge part of this is just sticking with it. And you know, you're further along than I was after 6 months, so I would just say keep going at it. I'm trying to read this like first section. Yeah, you're kind of before the mixing and mastering phase of your music production journey, but I don't know. I think maybe just adding some effects fills, taking some of that noisy stuff and incorporating that as a little bit more percussive stuff, add a little bit of swing would be interesting. But you've got a good start to a song, and if you're early in your journey, I definitely feel like at 6 months I was not nearly where you're at, but I would say keep it up, brother.
Yeah. Yeah, straight facts. I just thought of one thing that can help, because clipping to zero is like a pretty complex thing, and I don't think it's worth learning at this stage either. The more that I think about it, but what you can do is just put some kind of either soft clipper or hard clipper or even limiter on your master fader, and then just boost into it while your song is quiet, just to create the headroom. Like, the idea is you want some headroom between your mix and your masters so that you can master it eventually. So it's just something that can help, right? Like, everyone's got their own thing that they put on their master, whether it is a limiter or there's obviously a bunch of different things you could put there, but I have found even something as simple as a soft clipper can help you. Like, I don't know if you're in Ableton, but yeah, if you just put the saturator on and just turn on soft clip and then just keep it on analog clip and then boost it, like, I don't know, 12 dB or something, like 6 to 12 dB, then that will benefit your ability to master in the future. Even though the song may not be mastered currently or mixed currently, it'll definitely help you, because then you will have headroom, because your song will be like louder than it actually is. So then you will, yeah, have headroom. The idea of headroom is something you might want to look up, but that's, I think, way too much information. I would just say throw a soft clipper on your master and turn it up like 12 dB into it and work with that. And obviously if it sounds bad, then it's too loud, right? That's kind of what I'm saying. But anyway, that's like the super, super simple clip to zero. Okay. Yeah, cool. Awesome. All right. Yes, Hokie is flexing. Yeah. I'm just letting him know something that's super, super, super simple that would benefit, I think, like on a master. I wish I was doing that when I was mixing back in the day. Just had a nice little soft clipper on the master fader, boosted 12 dB. But of course, I didn't know any of that. All right. Next up, we have the guy. Actually, he's not even a guy. He's a raccoon. So I don't even know. Does he have questions? Does the raccoon have things that he would like to know of us? Yes, he does. Let me just grab these questions here. Okay. Yeah, Hokie, I can never get the image of all the raccoons and the guy with the hot dogs on the back of his deck feeding them. That's like every time I hear your name, that's what I think of. So I'm sorry. I don't know if that's good or bad. I think it's great, but yeah, here we go. All right, Blonde.
Slapper.
Yeah, you kick us off.
Word. Drastic timbre change. Maybe a little bit. But I mean, I think it sounded good. I know where you're at with having listened to it a million times, so you're you're tired of it. But I mean, maybe you could add a little bit, like a little bit of variation to bits and pieces. But I think it sounded pretty good as a first time listen. I think that was I wouldn't have changed the whole thing. Maybe like a little variation in timbre towards the end, whatever. But do the squelches over the top screw up the flow of the primary basses in the second half? Now this one, I actually think the second half squelches worked better than the first half squelches. The first half, the squelches were in there and they sounded great with the drop, but I think they would have sounded better if they were a little bit more prominent. I know we've talked about like isolating certain elements. I don't know if that would necessarily work for this, but maybe some like just single banded side chaining to like get the squelchiness to stand out a little bit more. Cause I really liked it, but I'm not sure exactly how to approach it. Like this style of music, sometimes when you're seeing it live, it sounds like it's coming out of like 3 different sound systems. So I think that these dudes like Tipper and like Jade Cicada, they'll have something playing that should be clashing with everything else, but somehow it's not. So tackling that might be kind of difficult. But oh, so you said you muted them in the first drop a little because the high end felt a little rough. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what it is, but those squelches are really nice in like kind of carrying some of the groove. So maybe having those stand out a little bit more. But I think that having something like just that band that those squelches are in some of the other elements just kind of brought down a little bit might help, might not. But I enjoyed those squelchinesses, and they just sounded like they were just kind of sitting too far in the background. And does the sub lack that punch that this type of sound design needs? I don't think so.
Here, we can listen to it again.
Yeah, so the sub, I mean, you've been playing enough live shows recently to know that like the bigger the sound system you're on, it's kind of forgiving with the sub. But I think that this is fine. Again, we have this like issue with like compression, just how I'm listening to the song right now, but it didn't sound like it was that bad as far as like punchiness. I do think that the noisy elements above 140 hertz, like just the mids and highs of the song, are a little bit more like harsh and hitting, but the sub is gonna thump no matter what. I mean, you make pretty bangy, like thumpy music, so I'm sure that you've baked in enough to have that sub kick on a big sound system. But yeah, I did notice that the outro fucking ruled because you were setting yourself up to mix out of this into the next song. So good on you for doing that. But yeah, crazy as always, man. Absolutely fucking crazy sound design. Yeah, I look forward to hearing more from you. Take it away, Mag.
All right. So, I feel like you know my answer to the first question. I think yes. I do think that it's not as exciting because we're not being blessed with the hokey call response. You know what I mean? Like we're kind of just listening to the sign compression bass the whole time, which I don't know. Like I think a good example of that kind of stuff just being like rinsed is some of Frequent's heavier stuff, or even Copycat a little bit, but even then they have like fills at the end of like each kind of section. So like even though they'll have no call and response for like most of the main bars, they'll have like moments, you know, like after the four bar, right? So like during that like fourth bar, they'll have a fill, and then it'll go into the next set of 4 bars. So I think like even that would be like a good solution to this, because it's definitely a good sound. Apart from the what Blom was saying, I agree with. They're like, it's like a little harsh, but I don't know. I'm kind of someone who can put up with like a little bit of that, just because I like little bit spicy sounds. But yeah, I just think that call response would be super exciting. As far as the squelches, yeah, I agree with Blonde. Maybe like that's how you can get into the fill ideology that I was just talking about more easily. Like you could use maybe not that exact sound, but like a variation of that sound for the like fill sections, and maybe just make sure that they are a little bit like more full than the ones that are over top during when the bass is playing. But yeah, I don't know. I think that I didn't notice it being bad in the second drop, so I don't know if that helps or hurts you, but I definitely wasn't opposed to it. It wasn't like off-putting or anything. But that could have been because I was too distracted by the fact that the bass was the same timbre still. So yeah, I don't know. I think that the timbral variety could go crazy on this song. But yeah, those are just my thoughts with regards to that. Does the sub lack the punch? I think it does, and I think the reason why is there's like a little bit too much low mid stealing energy from your sub, you know? Because like, let me see if I can find it here. Yeah, you can see like the second harmonic here and even like the third harmonic are just so loud that I think that's what's kind of like nuking the impact of your sub. Because the sub is probably fine. Like my guess, I'm obviously using headphones, so I can't hear it on my monitors. But I agree with Blonde. I think your sub's probably flexing. It's just that what's surrounding your sub is like stealing the energy from it. And I've just noticed like the balance there is sometimes difficult, and you can definitely get away with like a little bit of low mids. But I think because it's kind of like the same amount throughout the whole drop, it feels like less impactful than it could be. So, and I think that's why. That's my guess. I would experiment with removing a little bit of low mids. Not a lot, of course, but just enough to like feel more of the sub. But yeah, as for the harshness thing, I do think that it is a little bit harsh, but it's not like so harsh that it's bad. Maybe I'm wondering why it is as harsh as it is, and I think it's not just the bass. It's like the bass is a little harsh on its own, the mid bass, but I think also when it's layered with those like slide whistle sounds, I don't know. It's obviously, I don't think it's a slide whistle, but whatever that is, when it's layered with that, especially, it's like really harsh. So I'm wondering if maybe like doing a little bit of soothing on the mid basses and then a little bit of side chaining out some of the mid bass for the slide whistle-y synth thing during these fills could be dope. But yeah, those are my thoughts. Yeah, if you're ever bored of a track like this, you always just send it my way, Hokey. You already know I'm down to clown. So yeah, I haven't had anything recently, but I will probably send you something at some point soon. I've just been wrapped up in what you heard earlier. So yeah, but no, dude, this is fucking awesome. But yeah, I'm still more excited about the Hokey mix. All right, the Hokey mix that came out was a true treat. So all of the fellow raccoon lovers need to listen to that if you haven't already. It's like a 45-minute mix of just straight absolute sauce. So thank you for that, Hokey. You blessed us. But yeah, I think that's all I have to say. Did you want to add anything else, Blonde? Did you get everything off your chest?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Sorry, I'm at the I'm 2 days into what's gonna be like a 6-week break from music altogether. So I'm like, I'm still gonna be popping through for feedback and stuff, but I'm not like, I'm starting to forget all of the information. So
What's a synthesizer again? What's Ableton? Honestly,
yeah, I don't
I
even
think it's
know.
I think it's something that people use to like arrange music and mix it or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
dude, the
heard
only Fruity Loops I'm gonna be consuming is fucking
the
General
cereal.
Mills,
Yeah.
baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I just after the gig, it's like I had to. I just gotta because like what Hokie said, like he's listened to his own song a billion times. I've listened to my all of my original music like 1.5 million times in the last like 2 months, trying to put something together. So I just gotta get the fuck away from my own music for enough time that I can stand to open it again.
Well, that is big brain. I wish I had that level of steeled tenacity. I feel like if I don't open the DAW every day, I fucking feel like I'm gonna break everything. No, I'm just kidding. It's maybe not that
Well,
bad, but
dude, this is only day two, so I will admit I did open Ableton yesterday just out of habit, being like, well, let's get in here. But I just got to take a little mental break from everything.
it's good. It's healthy. I find that my workaround is I just take a style of music that I really want to improve on and I just forget about it. You know, I'm just like, this is going in the hard drive for all eternity. And then I'm like, oh, wait, I have these on my hard drive. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
That's been my workaround. But maybe it's not as good as just listening to other people's music because I do think you're onto something where, I don't know. I found that, again, referencing has helped me kind of navigate this. But even then, like, I think you can get wrapped up into habits that aren't always good. I think a good example of that was how the last few tracks that I posted, the high end was just fucked. So to put it bluntly, it was fucked. So yeah, no, I can feel why you would want to take a break, and that's I think a healthy decision.
Yeah. Just
So
got to step away for a little while, listen to some, also hopefully like find some shit that inspires me a little bit more so I come in a little more fiery, you know what I'm saying?
oh hell yeah, dude. Yeah, I look forward to let us know what you find inspires you. Whenever
Hey
you
man, I'll
do the
probably be
search.
through for flock flips and shit. I got nothing else to do half the time.
Hey, there you go. Oh, speaking of which, yeah, flock flips. Are you so the question that I have for you, Blonde, and I'm going to put you on the spot here. Are you able to do Sundays or not? If not, then we may have to
Prob
adjust.
Yeah, I can. I mean, I can still probably host.
Yeah, you don't have to obviously flip, but you hosting would obviously help me out tremendously because my Sundays have been busy AF. But
Yeah, yeah, I can still. I mean, I can still host flips and stuff. That's not a huge deal. I'm just gonna be taking a little time away from the blonde project for a couple weeks, and then come back at it. Drop
well,
some sauce.
well, thank you, good sir. That is greatly appreciated. Well, I guess then I can
Yeah.
say every Thursday and Sunday at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time we flip, and I guess at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time we or is it 9 o'clock that we open it? I'm having a moment here where I can't remember if it's 8:30 that we do the cook up or 9 o'clock that we do the cook up. I have
Nine
a feeling
o'clock.
it's at 9 o'clock cook up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So every Thursday and Sunday at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, we cook up samples for 30 minutes, and then at 9:30 every Thursday and Sunday Eastern Standard Time, we do a little flock flip, little remix thing. I don't know if it's really a competition, but it is a competition. You could become an anointed one and get access to the hidden features on the Discord server that you may or may not know exist. And yeah, every Friday from now on until further notice, 5:15 is when the submissions open. 6 o'clock is Feef. Did I miss anything? Stay tuned for new bangers. Obviously, shout out to Owlet, Hokie, everybody else in here. Thank you, Flock. You're awesome. Shout out to Blonde for coming through, hosting with me.
Thanks for having me.
Y'all are awesome. And keep making music.
Peace, everybody.
Peace.